Hey, welcome back to episode 3 of the Route 1042 podcast. I'm Ryan Steinke. Today with me is Pastor Marc, and we're glad that he is here with us. This is going to be a really great conversation because it's probably one of the least talked about areas in a young person's life because we just kind of assume you're good at it, but it's about making friends. You know, when you were a kid, making friends was really easy because all you had to do is play the same game, eat the same goldfish, and boom, you're best buds. But as you get older, there's a shift in mentality, there's a shift in your own little culture, and making friends, especially for guys, can be pretty difficult. So that's what we're going to talk about today is, guys, how to build your wolf pack, how to make friends. And so again, with me is Pastor Marc. Pastor, would you just kind of share a little bit about you, a little bit about your ministry? And,
well, first of all, Pastor Ron, I'm super glad to be here, but let me ask you a question. Route 1042, what does that mean?
Yeah, so Route 1042 is we are guiding teenagers from childhood to adulthood, and they're on this route. Now, 1042 comes from Matthew 10:42. And in Matthew 10:42, we have the disciples who are making disciples, and on their way, they come in contact with young people. And Jesus says, give to these little children a glass of water, a drink of water. If you do that in my name as a disciple, you are fulfilling my commission. And so I've realized as a youth pastor, these kids they're on a journey, and I'm on a journey. Christ has called me to make disciples. Christ has called me to reach out and evangelize. And on my way, I'm in contact with these young people, and they're on their journey. And while we're in this time frame where God has put us together, I have a responsibility to pour into them everything that I can, so that by the time they're entering into adulthood, that they're more equipped, they're stronger, they're more in love with Christ than they were when they were in 7th grade or 6th grade. That's Route 1042.
That's beautiful, Pastor Ryan.
Yeah.
It's richly biblical and sufficiently trendy. I like it.
Well, I see it all the time where pastors or youth pastors, they fundamentally don't know why they're there. Oh, the ministry is there, and they understand we have to minister, but really, what are we doing with these young people? Where are we taking them?
The ideas give you good direction.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing that, okay, these teenagers, they're not meant to stay as children, and they're not yet adults. So they're trying to figure out this transition. Parents are trying to figure out this transition, and God, who has beautifully made all of them, he knows how to guide them through this transition.
Excellent.
So that's why we're here.
Good explanation. Very good.
Yeah. So
what am I here for?
Yeah. What am I here for? So tell us a little bit about yourself, your ministry, where you're at, and where God has brought you to where you are now.
Well, I'm Pastor Marc Monte. I became a Christian when I was in the 8th grade. In the 9th grade, I got called to preach. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the great 4th Baptist Church of Minneapolis. My pastor was Dr. Richard V. Clearwaters, who was a stalwart fundamentalist of that age. And of course, I went on to Bible college, and then following Bible college, really my senior year began pastoring my first church, and have been pastoring for nearly 35 years, almost 25 of which have been here at Faith Baptist Church, which has been the privilege of my lifetime to serve these people as pastor, to love them, and to preach God's word to them. So that's a snapshot. I have 2 sons of my own, 3 foster sons, a lovely wife who has put up with me for the most part throughout the entire journey.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I've only been here for a year, and prior to that, I had no idea who you were, and I didn't have any idea.
Well, that's such a shame. I can't hardly believe that.
I know. I said, hey, I'm going up to Indiana, Marc Monte. They're like, wow, really? I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. And one of the big impacts already that I've seen, not just in my life, but I see in other people's lives, is how personable you are. There's a direct interest that you have in individuals, and you seek them out, not just to get something out of them, or it's your calling, but there's something inside of you.
Well, Pastor Ryan, people are the most interesting thing in the world,
right?
And as long as you remain curious and meet new people, you'll never lack for something to think about.
Right.
That's at the bare minimum. What I'm saying is absolutely true. I love people. I do love people.
But you're seeking them out. to build those relationships, to build those friendships. Now, in a church this size, it's almost impossible to do that with every person. But there's individuals that come into your life and they come and go. But when they're here, you pour into them. You have an amazing ability to make friends and
Thank
to
you,
be and to
Pastor
be
Ryan.
friendly.
That is a huge compliment.
Well, with pastors and with us in the ministry, we see people come and go all the time. We see, life and death. We see people get mad and leave and join. And so the idea of actually getting close to somebody is almost dangerous.
Correct. There's a liability to that.
Because
yes.
probably the most lonely people in ministry are as the pastor and the pastor's wives, because they face heartbreak and disconnect all the time. But that hasn't stopped you.
No, but that is a reality. When you talk about Christian work, that's a reality. Sometimes you build a relationship with somebody but didn't understand them fully. But that's kind of what we're here to talk about, the idea of friendship and how to make those work for the long term. And I will tell you this, I'm very a very relational person. You've seen that already. And I'm very much about permanence of relationships. I think I'm bothered at the core by people who will make a cameo appearance in your life and then vanish off the face of the earth. I will never understand that mentality. Now, part of that's a personality thing, and so I've had to come to accept that. But I think the richest of lives is lived when you have a string of people that you go through life with. You do life together with them.
So when a guy wants to make friends, I think guys really do deep down want to make friends, but there's a lot of times there's this obstacle when we want to make friends. So in your opinion, and specifically for teenage guys, what's the biggest obstacle when guys want to make friends?
Well, I sometimes think of it this way. Guys are kind of like wolves. Sometimes there's a lone wolf, but wolves all run in packs. And I think a guy is most comfortable when he's in that kind of setting where he has friends, people he can, socialize with, do fun things with, but then also talk to. So as we get older, though, we tend to not want to demonstrate our vulnerability. Now, I'm not promoting that, but I will say more about that a little bit later. But you think about the child in the sandbox who gets sand in his face and he runs and cries and goes to his mother, but then 10 minutes later he's back playing in the sandbox. Well, the fact that he showed vulnerability didn't affect that friendship, but later on in life, it certainly can. And then I think coupled with that sometimes is the busyness of being a teenage boy, if you're not on a sports team or in some kind of club academic thing, there may be a little bit of disconnect there. So, but I think a bigger thing than that, especially if a young man wants to make solid friendships, I think is the word initiation. Someone must initiate a friendship.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of what we were talking about, you mentioned that I have lots of friends. Well, that's because I'm a really strong initiator of a relationship. So what I found out is true, I'm sure, of teenage guys as well as certainly my age and younger and really across the board, is this, that everyone wants to do something, but nobody wants to initiate. So if you're the guy who says, hey, let's go to lunch, or you're the guy who says, hey, do you want to play in disc golf or whatever, if you're that guy, very rarely will you be turned down. In fact, you'll see the light of, in at least guys my age and a little younger, you're going to see the light of surprise in their eyes that, hey, this guy, he'd like to hang out with me, rather than just associate with me for the sake of the church or for the sake of a business or for job work, whatever it might be.
You think that the potential of rejection is one of the obstacles that keeps people from...
Yes, absolutely. Pastor Ryan, you're 100% correct there. So people don't like any form of rejection. This, by the way, will keep a young man sometime from dating, from asking out a pretty girl because of fear of rejection. And I think that's a little more legitimate. But when you talk about guys just doing stuff, you need to not be so sensitive about that, because most guys who are decent, who would make a good friend, they're not going to reject you out of hand. They may be busy and you have to schedule something later, but they're not going to reject you out of hand.
Yeah. I know there's that nervousness, even just when I talk to guys my age, or even talk to teenagers, there's that nervousness of, what are they going to say? What's their response going to be? And a lot of times...
Pastor Ryan, you're overthinking it.
Oh, absolutely.
You're overthinking it. So just go Okay, so the Bible says if a man would have friends, he must show himself friendly. Really great Bible principle. So if you're just overtly friendly to people and you see someone you think, wow, that guy could be a great friend, or maybe you share an interest with him, then approaching a person naturally, okay? And that's the key, and building it as part of your personality. Now, what a lot of people don't know about me, when I was in junior high, I was painfully shy. I was so shy, Pastor Ryan, that I wouldn't answer the phone when it rang, and I would never go to the door. If someone rang the doorbell, I would never go to the door. I was so painfully shy that I shied away from social interaction with people almost entirely, and it was concerning to my parents. And my dad died when I was 12, but I remember even at that early age, they were talking about my lack of social ability. And but then I got saved.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you need. But anyway, no, just kidding. but I think, and by the way,
I knew something was missing.
if a person is shy, there's nothing wrong with a person being shy. And let me make another statement. There's nothing wrong with a person being quiet. Okay, loud people are oddly suspicious of quiet people. Okay, quiet is perfectly fine. It's not a defect. It's a God-given personality, and their socialization is a little bit different from the big loud person, but that's a personality thing. And you'd be amazed, some of the most quiet people I've ever met in my life have become some of my closest friends. So because they let me do all the talking.
Yeah.
So
I think, with me and my, in the past decade of being in youth ministry, trying to reach out to teenage guys again and again and again, I'm constantly having to break my mold, because for years, and I think this is still affecting teenagers, especially guys, even, is that we rely so much on the environment to put people together. So we're going to rely on the basketball team. Okay, now these are my friends because we're on the basketball team, we're on the swim team, we're on the baseball team, we're soccer, we like chess. So, I remember in college, my friends were the ones who I sat by on the first day of class. Okay, so, I didn't really break out and go to somebody who was way on the other side of class. I constantly relied on my
that's very
environment.
reasonable.
But if we always can't rely on that.
No.
Because there's going to be somebody who has so much to offer into our lives, and we have so much to offer into their lives, that if we don't break out of that, if we don't learn how to make friends and not just solely rely on the environment, we're going to be missing out on some things.
And that is especially true as you get older, because as you get older, there are less team activities, less group activities. You get older, you get married, you have kids, your time becomes incredibly valuable to you. And really, that is a point in time at which friendships you had before, they will begin to falter because of those things. So I do understand what you're saying, but I would say lack of initiation is a major key, a major reason. Again, if the Bible says if a man would have friends, he must show himself friendly.
So you mentioned how guys are like wolves, and we like the idea of running with a wolf pack, but then there's that majestic picture of the lone wolf, just strong, bold, brave, and doesn't need anybody. What is so wrong about being a lone wolf, or what are some of the dangers about being alone?
So there's actually a term for that. I think it's a fairly new term. We've always heard about the alpha male who kind of is in charge, and then we've heard of the beta male who is somewhat submissive. A lot of those, by the way, running around. But there's a third category that I've only recently, within the last couple of years, heard of, and they call it the sigma male. And the sigma male is alpha in a lot of things. He likes activity, he likes those things, but socially, he's more isolated. He's happier to be alone. Now, I think it's very important for people to be able to be happy when they're by themselves. Okay, solitude is something that is very valuable. However, isolation is not valuable. And every person has a different tolerance level for sociability. So, for example, I'm an extrovert. Now, I wasn't always an extrovert, but I as I mentioned, I became an extrovert, Pastor Ryan, because are you adjusting your cell phone?
Yeah, it was.
I know those things always interrupt.
That's
And,
all
I'm
right.
saying things that are so vital.
I know.
Okay, just put the cell phone down. People
Sorry.
they're wed to that thing.
They are. I could just
And
cast this thing aside.
you should just cast
Gently.
it. Cast it,
Gently.
yes, cast it, because I'm not buying you a new one.
gentle cast.
Cast it aside. But there are people who, an extrovert, okay, I am now energized by people. So when I come to church and I get to mingling around with people, that gives me energy, okay? An audience that's paying attention or that is responding, laughter or whatever, that gives me energy. Talking to people. Last night after church, I purposely hung out at the church just to wander around and chat with people. That makes me happy. It energizes me because I'm extrovert. Okay, an introvert, and there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. My wife is an introvert. The introvert, it's all they can do to be around people. And they like people, but people they're comfortable with and in small doses. And so when we get home from church sometimes, I'll be all excited about everything that happened. And I got to see so-and-so and talk to so-and-so. And Kelly would be like, oh, that whole thing just drained me. It just drained me. And you say, well, Pastor Monte, she needs to work on that. No, it's her personality, okay? And introverted people have something to offer. The dangerous point is when someone becomes isolated, okay? That's when it gets weird. I have lots of friends, Ryan, but I would say to be a healthy person, it's not necessary to have lots of friends. Someone told me one time, I have so many friends that maintaining that is a full-time job, and it almost is. But that's not necessary to be healthy. But I think it's unhealthy for a young man or a young lady, of course, to isolate to the point where they have no close connectedness with another human being, or isolate to the point where their family is their only social outlet. I think those things can tend toward a dangerous position, both mentally, emotionally, and then certainly it doesn't bode well for the future.
Yeah. I mean, when Christ built his church, it just wasn't a duplicate of just one person. Everybody has something to offer to each other.
Oh, and they were also different. If you do a study of his disciples, you had a man that was an outcast, a tax collector, Matthew. Then you had fishermen. And fishermen were not highly regarded from northern Israel because that was considered worldly. It was kind of the Las Vegas. Galilee was kind of the Las Vegas of its day. It was considered worldly. And then you had a man who was a zealot, Simon the Zealot. He was a political, what some would call a political nutcase today. He was all about the politics of Israel. So, and then you had John, very contemplative and very thoughtful individual. You had an incredible mix of people, all hand-chosen by Jesus.
Right.
And that's a remarkable thing. That, by the way, proves, regardless of your personality, your introvert, extrovert, whatever it may be, God loves you and God has a purpose for you.
Yeah. So we've talked about some of the dangers of being alone. We've talked about some of the obstacles that guys face. So let's get into the meat of it. So what advice would you have for teenage guys, on how to make friends? And so I'm just, I'll just be in the seat of a teenage guy. I'm a teenage guy. Maybe I just entered into the teen group, or maybe I've been in the teen group or youth group for a number of years, and I want to make friends.
I can summarize that in 3 words. Don't be weird.
All right, there we go.
No. That is really good advice, actually. But I think that genuine friendship is not something that can be forced. It is something that develops. Okay, so, but having said that, if you're like a person that initiates friendship and is looking for friendship, then you kind of scout the horizon to see what kind of people would mesh with your personality. Honestly, looking for someone you admire, who maybe is accomplished in an area that you're not. Those are all good things. Or who has a skill, hobby, or interest that you share, because that shared interest and experience, very, very important. So I think initially that's the kind of person you would want to engage with. And when you do this, you do not engage with someone and blowing them out of the water. You just get to know them a little bit, because you might have seen something on the outside that you admired and then later think, well, I could never be friends with that guy. So it is a process, but someone has to initiate the process.
Yeah. In order for it to be a genuine friendship, does it need to develop more organically?
Well, I think it does. So, I mean, I'm going to give you 4 concepts of friendship at some point. I might as well kind of start there. So, and I'll give you a little story. Several years ago, we were in church on a Sunday night. I was up on the platform, and I was looking over the audience, and I thought to myself, hey, I don't know much about weightlifting, had never really done anything serious with it, but I thought if I had a partner, because I'm not going to the gym by myself. Okay, I'm very social. Now that I go to the gym, I have tons of gym friends, but at the time I wasn't going to go by myself, and I didn't know what to do, So I spotted a guy in our audience who was my size, big guy, and during handshake time, I just went down to him and I said, hey, do you work out anywhere? He said, I did when I was in college, but I don't now. I said, well, we should work out together. And he was really excited about the idea. And so that was years ago. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as much as we're able to do so, we work out together at the gym all the time. Well, that activity was something that spawned a solid friendship. So, so if I was going to give you some irreducible minimums for friendship, and I think I can go into that at this point in our podcast, I think that I would say the first thing is a shared history. Now, what I mean by a shared history is this. You actually do something together. Now, at the risk of alienating my entire teen audience, social media is not a shared history. It is not a shared experience. So what social media does, it actually damages the ability to build true friendships because we live vicariously through other people behind a screen. People that, that show I just saw it the other day, that kids really love this show called Dude Perfect.
Yeah.
I was watching it the other day, and I have to admit, it's rather engaging.
For sure.
I wish your podcast could be like Dude Perfect.
I know.
And I would be the perfect dude to be on Dude Perfect.
Absolutely.
But I was some kids, I think the boy's like 14, he was watching it, and it caught my attention, and so I started watching. I thought they're Christian guys, and I thought this was a really kind of a cool thing. You're not going to be that, but those guys, they have a genuine friendship. You can see that it's real. But a lot of guys will live vicariously, and they'll be watching that, and that's takes the place of a real life experience. Okay, so I was with a teen boy one time. We were out in Colorado at the Collegiate Peaks mountain range area. We were climbing up the trail, very, very rigorous trail. Unbelievably beautiful scenery. And this young man, he came up, he was so excited, and he just thrilled at the scenery, and he made this statement. He said, Pastor Monte, this scenery is almost as real as my video game.
Oh.
Now, he said that, and I laughed. I thought that and he was being sincere. He was not joking. Almost as real as my video game.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's a problem with that. So what I would encourage you to do, I'm not against you having social media if it's used properly, but I would encourage you to set that aside and say, what am I doing? Or am I watching someone on video that's bike riding or kayaking or doing something, and I'm living vicariously through that person? No. I need to be doing those things, okay? If anything, if you want to be on social media, you be the one making the videos of the exciting things to do.
Right.
And you join with your friends. But back to the shared history, okay? You can't be friends with someone unless you've had experiences together. The great thing about guy friends is this. Guys don't want to just sit around and talk. They want to be doing something. So you can say, hey, I'm going to go, this is going to sound old, I'm going to go bowling. Maybe no one's going to sign up for that, okay? I'm going to go play disc golf, okay? Or I'm going hunting, or I want to go hiking. And you're inviting someone along. Well, they're coming along for the activity, but over the course of the activity, you get to know each other and you share a history there. So you with a guy in a guy setting, you'd go hunting and camping. But I'm not being sexist with what I'm saying, but guys like that kind of thing. And crazy things happen in the woods that guys never talk about. My most embarrassing moments have been at a boat ramp, trying to get a boat on a trailer, and I thank God no one was there to watch it. Okay, except my friend, who we laugh about it to this day. So you share these experiences that, without that history of doing things together, no friendship can be built. And if you have Pastor Monte, I have 5,000 Facebook friends or Snapchatter friends or whatever it is. No, you don't. Those people are not your friend.
Yeah.
Your friend is the person you see face to face. Your friend is a guy you call up and say, hey, let's go on a hike. Let's go do something with. So shared history, that's number one. Do you have any questions about shared history?
It's not sufficient enough to just have an online community of friends.
No, that's not even a community.
Right. You've got to have something of tangibility with another individual. If there's that part of you that says, I really want to have a genuine friendship, then you have to seek it with another individual.
Yes, online things enable closer connectivity for people who have already built a relationship. I think that's a really important point. I text my friends. My phone goes off beginning probably at 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, with group texts, mass texts, these people, those people. And Pastor Monte must be important, emergency, spiritual things. No. It's just friends chit-chatting, okay? But that is not the core of our friendship. The core of our relationship is the things we do together. Now, if someone lives in a very distant state, then those kind of things, texting and all that is a great tool to keep contact, but it is never a replacement for being with the actual person, ever.
Yeah. Okay. So, number one is, and take the initiation, right? And then have a shared history.
And that comes over time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a time investment, but it's fun. You're doing stuff together. That's a fun thing. The next one is more difficult, but as you build a shared history with someone, you will either learn how trustworthy they are or how trustworthy they are not, okay? And if the person proves himself to be not trustworthy, he will not make a good friend no matter what. But as you share experience together, you get to know one another, and something happens that's called transparency. It doesn't happen right away, okay? In every relationship of life, there is a gradual revealing of the person that you are. And in men, there's always a hesitancy to reveal some things, maybe more personal things, maybe not deep things, but just a little more personal, because they're afraid of what the other person is going to think about them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes guys will try to put themselves forward as the smartest, the best, the most athletic, the most talented. And when you do that, you build a wall. You build a wall because people are people. So those people on Facebook that dress all their kids in matching clothes and line them up according to height, and they hold gigantic King James Bibles in their hands, and the sun is shining over their right shoulder, those people are weirdos. Okay, those people will tend to be the most dysfunctional people on the planet. That comes from almost 35 years. Almost 35 years of pastoral experience, youngie.
So it's right.
Yes, tells me that. But when you transparency is, I drop my guard with this person, and then that person reciprocates by dropping their guard, and then that transparency allows for a relationship to deepen. Okay, and by the way, self-revelation. And this is true in the dating relationship. If a guy is dating a girl, self-revelation over a period of time is essential to have a real relationship. And I would caution people, because if you're a guy and you reveal everything about yourself on the first date, she will run for the hills. Okay, that's weird. It's creepy. It's just awkward.
Yeah.
It's super awkward. It's spectrum stuff. Okay, you're not doing that.
Right.
But what you are doing is there's an acceptance, and by the way, someone kind of has to initiate that too. So if you had a problem at work, or you had a problem at school, and you just talk about it a little bit, and then that other person says, yeah, something like that happened to me. That's where transparency is. Now the best of friendships are when there's almost, I would just, for lack of a better word, say a total transparency, and where this person knows me inside out and I know him inside out. We know the good, the bad, the ugly. We know the strengths, we know the weaknesses, we know the flaws, and we accept each other anyway. And so if a person's not going to be accepting of who you are, genuinely are, they can't be your friend.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say as a pastor, this is one of the obstacles to friendship, would be that some people have to view me in that role 100% of the time. And if they ever see me being human or think of me as human, they're hurt, they're disappointed, their ideal bubble, their idealistic bubble has burst. that's immaturity, okay? Because we are all human beings.
Yeah.
And you cannot have a close relationship with someone, and there are some people that don't want it anyway, but you can't have a close relationship with someone without a level of transparency and being willing to accept.
Yeah.
So if you become friends with someone and they reveal something new, well, I've got this deep dark secret in my life, Pastor Ryan, I hate Chinese food. Okay, and if right away you're like, well, you can't be my friend over that.
Got that right.
Then I love Chinese food, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it. It's not keto friendly. Some of it is, I guess, but
I can't do like a buffet though. Like I'll do.
Well, the buffet is better for keto people because we can choose, different things.
Yeah, but it's been sitting out there for.
Well, it has.
Forever.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some buffets in this area where I would tell you to avoid them, but I don't want a lawsuit, so we're not going to mention any Chinese buffet located near the Kroger and Avon. We will not mention that.
No.
But because we're not interested in a lawsuit. But but Pastor Ryan, so the transparency thing is I am who I am, and acceptance means I'm not judgy of that person. Okay, I'm just listening and observing and learning. So that transparency is important. The longer standing the relationship, the more transparent it should be, and the deeper you go. And one of the reasons for transparency is this: friendship, being part of the wolf pack, means that if a wolf is wounded, the other wolves come around him and they protect him, okay? And if you've never been transparent, it might not be evident that you're wounded because you may not share that with someone. And that is a very dangerous place to be mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, they become very volatile. A teenager, guy or girl, I've seen a lot of guys too, is when they don't have that person that they can go to and they can be transparent and they can be real, it just builds up.
It does build up.
And they're just a ticking time bomb.
And something to remember is girls act in, so they pack it all in until they can't pack in anymore, and then really bad emotional things happen or a blow-up happens. Guys act out. And so when a guy acts out and he's out of control or he's obnoxious or he's a problem, that's usually a deeper problem. But if you have people you can go to and talk things through with because you trust them, you've been transparent with them, they have been transparent with you, that's an exchange, then at that point those are two things for a good foundation.
Yeah.
You've got the history and the transparency.
Yeah. So we're talking about making friends. Now, everybody wants to have friends. I think, for the guy who's just going to sit there and just mope that he doesn't have any friends and just does nothing about, this is the podcast for you because we want you to make friends. And this is for, everybody who you may be in that situation where you want to make friends. So number one is you have to take that initiative, and you have to get over whatever.
A little inhibition about taking initiative. Yes, you have to get over that. Yes.
Yeah, and then have a shared memory, have a shared history, have a shared event, and then be transparent. Now, all this is there's time involved. This is not going to be one.
It's super weird if you try to do this the first time you hang out with some guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Because wolves, they size each other up. In a wolf pack, there is a social order. Okay. There's always the head of the pack. And the wolves constantly size each other up. And if the guy who's the head of the pack, if he becomes sick, wounded, or too old to lead the pack, then you've got a bunch of other young wolves that are sizing each other up to figure out who's going to be the next leader. Well, I'm going to take that over to the idea of when you make friends or begin to associate with someone, the association part is sizing that person up. And then as the friendship grows over time with shared experiences, the transparency grows.
Yeah, and if this process isn't practiced during these teenage years, it gets harder once you're out of it, because like we mentioned earlier, your environments change drastically, socially drastically, to where if you're in school right now and you're surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of young people. When you graduate,
and those people are not necessarily friends, but they're associations,
right? Maybe
very close associations, and it looks like friendship, but in many cases it's not.
Yeah, so this is a prime time for guys to really hone in their skills on making friends.
Right.
I was talking with somebody a while back ago. I think it was just in the summer, and we were talking about this very same thing: how difficult it is for adults to make friends and to do this process over and over again. It's very, very difficult.
For most adults, it's something they don't do. I will be in a few days. I'll be 56 years old.
Happy birthday.
And, well, thank you. By the way, for the listening audience, it's February 11th, and cards and letters, gifts especially, are welcome. But
yes.
And I will say this, Ryan, I still anticipate in my life making new friends. And I will say that I have friends that last decades. I have friends, close friends from high school. We're still close. We visit one another. We actually see one another. But then I also have newer friends that I've made as an adult, much more difficult, and you have to be much more purposeful because everyone has a life. You know, they have a wife, they have kids, they're busy, they have the same desire to be part of their wolf pack, part of the tribe, but they're very busy. And so you have to be very purpose-driven about that.
Yeah. So take the initiative, have a shared history, and be transparent. Is there anything else that we can...
Oh, yes.
Let's hear it.
One word, brother, and this defines friendship: loyalty. Loyalty. Now, I had pushback from someone one time when I was talking about this in a public forum. I had pushback, and someone said, well, Pastor Monte, the word loyalty is not found in the Bible. You would be correct about that. The word loyalty is not found in the King James Bible. But there is another word that takes loyalty to a higher level, and it is found throughout the King James Bible, and that is this word: faithful or faithfulness. Faithfulness is even higher than loyalty. I use the word loyalty because it resonates a little bit more with modern people, but faithfulness is even higher. So what is loyalty or faithfulness? What is that? That is someone that you can absolutely trust because they know you have their back. You trust the person, that person has my back, and I know it 100% of the time. I heard an old preacher put it this way, and I don't care what the audience thinks because I like it. He said this, he said, friendship sees his buddy in a fight, punches the other guy, and then turns to his friend and says, why did I punch him? I think that's a beautiful definition of loyalty. So if you're going to be transparent and share transparency, there has to be trust.
Yeah.
And you can only trust people who are dead dog loyal. Now you say, oh, Pastor Monte, sounds like you're promoting the Good Old Boys Club. Well, the answer to that is yes. And I just don't know about this. I have to be loyal to a set of principles. I have to be loyal to this. Well, I agree with loyalty to a set of principles, but I also agree with loyalty to people. So what if I'm very loyal to a friend and he's absolutely in the wrong? Let's say he's arguing with someone else and he's totally in the wrong. Well, Pastor Monte, the right thing to do would be to take the other guy's side. You'll never see that out of me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to privately talk to him later and say, hey, that wasn't too smart what you said. Or, hey, that was, as a friend, I would never take the other guy's side, okay? If a friend is going through a deep problem or has a sin problem or something like that, I'm never going to run around and talk to other people about it or display that. That is incredible disloyalty.
Yeah.
And so without loyalty, you cannot. And there are some people I've met, Ryan, after all my years and thousands of people, there are some people that are incapable of this.
Yeah.
And by the way, they actually spiritualize it to act like, well, I'm only loyal to God and not to people. And they make this big spiritual thing. They have no friends.
Yeah.
They have no friends. And really, it's just their inability to connect and protect. So if you think about the word loyalty, I want you to think about it in regard to the word protect, okay? I'm loyal to someone, therefore I protect that person at all cost. This is the only way to have friends. It's the only way to have a deep relationship. And it is beyond the kin of a lot of people, but people that have friends and know this, they practice this.
Yeah.
And you know what that does? It makes you as a friend, it makes you like a refuge. I don't want to use the word safe space or place because that's so crazily snowflake, driven. But if you know someone is loyal to you, you can pour your heart out to that person, or you can share a problem or struggle you're having, and that person will be sympathetic, and that person will never tell another person. And by the way, for the pious people out there who worry incessantly about the word loyalty, for the pious people who worry about that, you better be glad your pastor is that way, because I know a lot about people, and my lips are sealed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the social media climate, is that being disloyal is hidden. See, I could have a friend in real life, and then what happens all the time is that we get on social media, and because messages can be private and messages can be sent in our inboxes and all these things, it spreads like wildfire, and social media caters to that. And now through even texting, you can delete your text messages that you sent. I mean, so there's always provisions for us to be disloyal. And it's got to take somebody who is going to rise above that with maturity and say that I'm going to be loyal to him in person and online. I'm going
And
to
behind his back.
Right, and behind his
And
back.
really, honestly, social media builds in everyone, not just the ladies, okay, but builds in young men a penchant for drama.
Yeah.
And people stir the pot on social media where they would never do that in a human relationship. But I have some friends that, Pastor Monte's dead dog loyal to them and will help them to the day that they die, and their secrets go to the grave with me. And you say, oh, this is sounding kind of mafia. Well, you say whatever you want to say about it. But I think that we're broken people in a broken world. People need someone that they can lean on, they can depend upon, and they know this guy's got my back.
Yeah.
And that's really a major key.
Yeah, life's too hard to do it by yourself.
Correct.
There's way too many things, especially...
And it's no fun to do it by yourself. And,
right.
And it's lonely.
Yeah.
Okay, how many guys my age or younger do I know that are just lonely? I had a man say this to me one time. And it's a man that's one of my closest friends in the world, okay, now. But he said this to me. He said, before I met you, he said, I thought I knew what it was to have friends. I knew some people in college. The man's in his late 40s. He said, I knew some people in college. I knew, and I considered them all my friends. He said, then when we became friends, he said, I realized that that's not the essence of friendship. But he said this. He said, at one point in my life, he said, I analyzed my life. I go to work. I come home. I eat my supper, chat with my family, and then prepare for work the next day and go to bed. And he said, one time I thought, I guess this is what good Christians do until the day they die. And no, you don't spiritualize something like that. That's called being in a rut. A rut is a grave with the ends kicked out, and it's horrible. And so the richness that genuine human friendship brings into a person's life, it lifts their life. People are so silly. Well, I can't have a good time if I didn't go to Disney World, or I can't have a good time if I, some big spectacular thing. No. The best times in life can be had with people that you're close to, people you laugh with, people you share with, and those should be your friends.
Yeah. So guys, this is for you. I mean, of course, anybody could take this advice.
Oh, this works with girls
this works
too.
With
There's just a little extra drama and tears. Just kidding. Okay, take a joke.
I know.
People,
right?
take a joke.
It's a little more sensitive. Okay, so a lot. You may have been hearing some of these things, and you're like, I'm not that at all. I'm not an initiator. I'm not transparent. I don't have any good ideas to do stuff with people, and I don't really find myself loyal. So here's what you do: you start with the first thing. Don't feel like you have to take everything at once and be that person all at the same time. If there's an area in your life where you see like, okay, maybe I'm not as loyal as I should be, work on being loyal. Work on being honest. Work on being truthful. Work on being loyal to your parents and to your family. If you're say, well, I can't even start because I'm not really good at initiating. Well, just introduce yourself to people.
Right. You don't have to be a wallflower.
Right.
That's not going to work as a guy.
Yeah.
But you say, well, the part of the hesitancy would be, well, maybe you're not athletic. Okay. Well, you can be intellectual. Okay. Well, maybe you're neither athletic nor intellectual. Okay. Well, you can develop your personality. So I really do believe, Ryan, because of my own personal experience here, a man can develop his personality, okay? And once you find the joy of initiating, and you realize 99.9% of people are not gonna, they're not gonna come back being snarky. They're not gonna hit you, okay? Once you realize that people are looking for this kind of thing, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then you hone those skills. You mentioned that you hone those personality skills, and those really they're friendship skills. But the things we've talked about are basic building blocks for friendship. Now, there is a fourth one I should mention quickly. And that's the word respect. Okay, so I have a shared history with this guy. We have been transparent with each other. That's self-revelation. We are loyal, very, very loyal. But we always respect. Okay, and that's highly important. What does that mean? It doesn't mean as a guy you're always polite, okay? Because guys with each other do not have to be polite. That's part of the glory of being a guy. You don't have to be polite.
Hallelujah.
You can be savage. You guys, my wife, I'm with friends sometimes, close friends, and they'll hit me hard with those little insults guys throw around, and Kelly will be like, one time she's like, well, why do you guys do that to each other? Like you're just exchanging insults. And I said, because we're friends. And she said, well, if ladies said that to each other, we'd be bitter enemies. And I said, that's one of the key differences. By the way, young people, there's a difference. There is a difference, young people, between boys and girls. This is very basic.
Right.
And I said, well, in guy speak, when you kid and joke and pick on a guy, that's an indication of friendship.
Yeah.
And that's guy speak. And but respect is always undergirds that. So I would never do anything disrespectful in relationship to another man's family. I would never do anything disrespectful in relationship to his wife. Yeah, understand that. And there's a level of respect. And so, like Ryan, I might know where your goat is tied. I really don't know where your goat is tied. I've yet to figure that out. But I might know something that really gets under your skin and hurts your feelings, not just fires you up a little. Because if I figure that out, it's going to happen all the time. But am I going to purposely try to hurt your feelings? Am I purposely going to try to minimize you or diminish you as a person? The answer to that is no, and the reason for that is respect.
Yeah, and you got to navigate, and navigating those feelings is a part of being the friendship.
Right, and I would say to all the guys out there too, you can't have friends if you wear your feelings on your shirt sleeves. Okay. And the Bible talks about the reproof of a friend is better than the kiss of an enemy. Okay?
Yeah.
So sometimes your friend has something to say to you and it stings a little bit. Well, there's value to that. But fundamentally undergirding that is this great respect that we have for one another. And that never changes. It's not something that ever is spoken. Loyalty would be something that is spoken. Hey, bro, I got your back. Don't worry about it. No one's ever going to know about that or hear about that, those kind of things. Probably the worst way, one of the most damaging things in a friendship is if you're a tattletale. Come on now, bro.
Yeah.
Like you have to run and tell everybody. That's gossip, but you run and tell an authority figure. Well, he was chewing gum in class, and I just feel like the teacher needs to know. Okay, well, good luck with ever having a friend.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You're the patsy of the teacher. You're not a friend. Oh, I know some parents are going to disagree with this, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, and all through this, guys, you're gonna have your feelings and emotions through every one of these stages, whether it's initiating, being transparent, whether it's having a shared history, being loyal, being respectful. Your emotions are going to be there, but like you said, you can't have them lead your decisions.
For a guy, emotions never need to be front and center. Now, there are times in a crisis or a really hard time where they are briefly, because we're all emotional human beings, but those things are not front and center generally in a guy's life because God made us not to be that way.
Yeah, I remember in high school, I liked this girl. And it wasn't Tiffany, but she was.
It wasn't Tiffany?
It wasn't Tiffany.
I don't even think we should talk about this.
I know, maybe. But I will.
Why are you turning red right now?
Because I'm transparent.
Okay, be transparent.
Yes, so I liked this girl in high school, and she was real pretty. And
she turned out real bad, though.
No. She's
a horrible person.
No, not really. Okay. So me and my best friend, we were just tight. I mean, real tight. I spent, summer weeks at his house, and we were leaving this party that we were at, and the girl that I liked, she was driving her car, and I was riding with my friend in his car, and I knew that they had some sort of chemistry there, and it's kind of bothering me a little bit because I didn't have any, I was small and skinny and didn't have a beard, so
yeah, that beard, by the way, saves your bacon.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, and it was late one night, and he said, hold on one sec. And so before we pulled out, he got out of the car, went up to her car, and stuck his head in the window. and came back, and it was as happy as a lark.
Mm.
The brother stole a kiss that night. I was,
and he knew you liked her.
I was crushed.
And he knew you liked her.
I don't know if.
How
but
would he not know that?
In my spirit, though, I was just destroyed. I was destroyed.
Did you talk to him about it?
I didn't talk to him about it because I wasn't that transparent.
You didn't punch him in the nose?
Didn't punch him in the nose.
Oh.
But I kept my feelings under control.
That's good.
Until I got home, and then I let it out. So I don't know why I shared that, but
I don't know why you shared that either. It's kind of creepy. Oh, well, let me tell you what.
But
let me tell you what.
Yes.
Let me tell you what. I'll tell you what. Good. Go ahead. He kissed her.
Yeah.
Which is thoroughly unbiblical. 1 Corinthians 7 verse 1. It is good for a man not to touch a woman. So
Yes.
he violated the scripture.
Yeah.
But you ended up with Tiffany.
I did.
And Tiffany is far better than
Yes.
that awful person.
And I kept my friend.
And you kept and that's remarkable too.
That is.
By the way, have you ever talked to him about this?
No.
What?
No, he became a doctor, and I didn't.
Oh, he's a doctor?
Yeah.
But you won't talk to him about this funny story, how you felt?
I probably should just tell him about this episode.
Sharing that in a funny way would be a real bro move.
Yeah.
That'd be a real bro. And it's good to keep some doctors in your hip pocket. I'm almost 56, and I know about that.
He's a anesthesiologist, just like his dad.
A doctor of the good stuff.
Doctor of the good stuff.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, there you have it. Okay, so this is foundational.
This has really gone over the top a little too far.
This
but
is
hey,
building blocks for you.
This is what you call transparency.
Let's go into review here. Initiate. Have a shared history.
That's do stuff.
Do stuff together.
That's what that means.
And as you are initiating, you're doing stuff, be transparent, be loyal, and then be respectful. All right, guys, we appreciate you. I hope you can make a friend today. Thank you, Pastor Mark, for being with us.
Thank you, and I would love to come back to this podcast. I've learned some things on this podcast that I didn't even know about.
That's what happens.
I have something to goad you with now,
That's right.
my friend.
That's right. Hey, thanks for watching.